No wonder. I've been talking for 40 minutes. Oh my goodness. All right. That's okay though. I will readjust. But thank you again for letting me know. This is probably why nobody's on board. Oh, my mic. Okay. I'm hoping you can hear me now. All right. So we're talking about the plus fours. And Alyssa, did you have any questions? Thank you for joining. So again, in abacus, what we want to do is we want to focus in on the five. When we focus in the five, uh, when we focus in the five, sorry, when we focus on the plus four, we want to be able to utilize the four. And how to utilize the four is using the five. So in school we're teaching the children how to utilize the five frame, and then we're using the number bond so they could see how they're reacting. And then I was going through this and I'm like, oh, so here we have the cats in a tree. Why do we have cats in a tree? Well, because the children are young, they may not understand, what we're trying to do with adding the five. So here is a sample question, and the sample question is: we want to add the two, so we have the two, and then we want to add the four. Well, notice there's not enough beads to add the four. So here we need to go to the cats in the tree. So that's what this is, the cats in the tree, and we grab four cats. We grab four cats, but then one cat runs away. This one cat runs away. So we have to take away the one. And so my answer is six. And that was the one thing that I'm going to start adding is my fingers. So it's fingers are still fingers is still a manipulative tool. It's still good to use our fingers in the scenario of trying to figure out like how we're doing with the numbers. How are we working with the numbers? So let's do it again with the three. So when I add the three, and again I go to the four, and I see, oh, cats in the tree. Is there enough beads to add the four? No, there's not enough beads to add the four. So what do I need to do? I need to go to the cats in the tree, right? That's the five. I grab four cats. I grab four cats, but one cat runs away. So one cat runs away, and my answer is seven. So I put seven here. And then the reason why I have this is to color it in. So here, just as I did up here, I want to color in the four cats, and I know that one cat runs away. So that was the reason why I have the picture of the trees here, so we can use it as a tool to show that there is four cats and one cat runs away. So, Alyssa, did you have any questions about the class? And then we're just continuing on. I added this part here so then we can talk about, the kids to remember what plus four is. And so hopefully they can, chant out plus four is equal to plus five minus one. Now, that was the reason why we say plus four is equal to plus five minus one, is to remind us that we're going to, if we need to add the four, so you bring down the five and you're really saying four. Yes. So, because when we do it, we are adding this four. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're doing an exchange. When we do it, you'll see that there's a pattern. When we do three, we have to bring down the five, but notice I take down the four. So adding the four is this. This is the number pattern that we're trying to go for. So we're not just to bring down the five, we also need to bring down the one at the same time. So we're doing an exchange and not a replacement. We're doing an exchange. So if I bring down the five, I have to take the four, I have to take the one down. So that's what that means. So don't so we go step by step, right? So when we go to the cats in the tree, right? We go to the five, we go to the cats in the tree, but one cat runs away and we have to bring down it at the same time. That's the one thing, is to bring it at the same time, because we're doing an exchange. So here, the reason why we say plus four is equal to plus the five minus one is to remind us, oh, that is showing visually. Yeah. So, exactly. You know what? I should, here, this is what the question was. So when you bring down the five, are you really saying four? No, we're doing exchange. And so this one was, oh, that's showing visually. Yes. that is showing visually. So that was one thing about the abacus is that it shows the number pattern. Because in school we do a lot of like these numbers, but it doesn't click in our head, right? Like I have to think about it. But then when I do these questions, I see that there's a number pattern, and the children will be able to see this as they go through. But they have to do it like slowly, and that's why it takes time. That's why it takes time. So the next one would be the +3, and it's the same thing. I go to the cats in the tree, I grab 3, but notice I have 2 cats that run away. Now, how does that work? So let me do 4. So if I do 4 and I want to add the 3, I have to go to the cats in the tree, but 2 run away. So that's the number pattern that we're dealing with. Plus the 5, take away the 2. Yeah. Plus the 5, take away the 2. I'm doing 2 fingers, right? 2 hands to show to exaggerate the number, pattern, right? But when you do it, you do the index and the thumb, and you do it at the same time, so it looks like this, right? It's like a magic trick. It's the shifting of the hands. But I didn't want it. I want to make sure that it was understood. That's why I'm using 2 fingers, two hands to show the separation, right? You have to do it at the same time. But when the kids do it, when your child does it, make sure it's one hand and they do it at the same time like this. So when I add the 3, it goes like that. Okay, so that's why we do the 3. And again, we focus in on the process, not the result. And that was one thing, like one of the things that, had to change my mindset around is we need to go through the process and not worry too much about the result. And that was the one problem that, I think in school that we're having is, we're very focused on the result, but we should do is we understand the process. So that's why I have it broken up into specific numbers. And then after that, we can go into going through the friends, and going through the maze, and having them go through the maze and just reinforcing the concept of, is there enough and how can I do it? And so that's the one step. That's the next step. So we finished with the simple, and then we understood what the friend making the friends. In the I have been we have been adding the addition sheet with 2 thumb up. Why is it important to bring 2 up at once instead of 1 at a time? Because because the number because we want to start learning how to subitize. And when we look at numbers, like let's say we have these blocks, right? When we count, we do 2 and 2. We don't do 1, 2, 3, 4. So it kind of translates to that in abacus as well. So when we do the addition for 2, we want to do 2 beads. You could count it out, but the idea is when he gets more comfortable with understanding how the numbers are, you should be able to just kind of do it 2 at the same time like that. And it's the same thing with the 3 and the same thing with the 4, right? That's part of the automaticity and understanding what the beads look like, because it's the same thing with the die, right? When we look at a die, we don't just count it all the time. We don't be like 1, 2, 3, 4. We look at it and we know. Kind of the same thing. The concept is kind of the same as making sure that there's the automaticity. Yeah. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. But yeah, so you'll see when we go through 4, it'll be 4. Oh, I noticed that there's a delay, so that's the reason why. And when he starts to understand, it will be faster. But again, it's the motions. Okay, so here we have the +5. I call it +5 maze. The reason why, because the what we're doing is we're adding the 5. So that's what this is. And then the next one would be adding the tens. In school, we talk about making a 10. Yes, it does. I have been doing it. Oh, yeah. The other reason why we do it is part of finger movements and muscle memory. So he'll see it. He'll start seeing that when we move it, it will be automatic. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going into the plus 10s. I still need to, still in the process of making the -5 book, but we will have that available pretty soon. The next one is the plus 10. What is a plus 10? Well, the 10 is the same concept, but this time we're talking about 10 column, 10, the 10 frame, which is make a 10. How do you make a 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Making a 10 is also very important, and it still stops at understanding, how to make it. So we have 9 plus 1 is equal to 10. So there, thank you. So the concept is being taught in school. How do you plus a 10? How do you make a 10? And we do 1 plus 9 and 9 plus 1 is equal to 10. That's great. Then what does that mean? So if I color in the 9 squares, I know that there's the 1 square that's left over. It's the same thing with this. Now, interesting enough is that we start doing all these words like um it's great to know how to make a 10. That's what we're trying to do. But now, just like what we did with the plus 5, we can actually go in and manipulate what this is. Just like what we do the plus 5, we can do that with the plus 10. What does plus 10 do? The plus 10 means that we go to the next column. So in this scenario, we want to isolate the 9. So the question is, what are we doing? We are working on this one, which is the plus 9. Yeah. So here is the plus 9. When we want to add the 9, we want to add the 10. We want to add the 1 to make a 10. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move the 1. We're going to isolate the variable, and we're going to move it to the other side. What did she say? It was elimination? Eliminate? I can't remember. Anyways, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to isolate this variable. It's not a variable because we know it's a 9, but the concept is very similar to algebra. And so what we're going to do is we're going to move this plus 1 to the minus side, to this side. Because it is an equal sign, we want to minus the 1. When I rewrite this, the formula that the kids will need to remember is plus the 9 is equal to plus the 10 minus 1. This is something that he will have to remember. All children, everybody, even I have to remember, right? Because this is the formula it's a fundamental formula. This is part of the ingredients of learning, the ingredients of adding and subtracting. So the question is 9. Let's do 9 plus 9. So that's what the question is. When we do 9 plus 9, so we have 9, and then we add another 9. Notice that there's a plus 10. Is there enough beats to add 10? No. So I'm sorry. Is there enough beats to add the 9? No. So what we're going to do is we're going to plus the 10. Now there's many different names for this concept of plussing the 10. We can call it grouping. We can call it grouping. We can call it regrouping. Sometimes we can call it carry over. So this is the introduction to carrying over. Or when we minus, it's called borrowing. But in abacus, we just call it plus 10s. That's all we call it. The reason why we call it plus 10s is because we want to go to the next column over. Because we want to go to the next column over, we're going to add the 10, right? And then we take away the 1. And we take away the 1. That's the only reason. So when you subtract, it will be opposite. Exactly. So going down this path, right? It's exactly what it is. So when we're doing, I'm going to take this scenario that we have. Now, if you notice, we have, if I rewrite it, it's plus 9 plus 1 equals plus 10. Let me rewrite it to look like the subtraction one. So the subtraction one would be minus 9 minus 1 equals minus 10. This is not a negative. This is just a understanding what we're trying to do. Like we're trying to take it away. Hi, Suburban Joe. Welcome. So we're talking about the minus side. So, and it's the same thing with the friends. The friends would be minus 4 minus 1 equals minus 5. Why are we doing this? Because again, when we isolate the variable, When we want to isolate this variable, we need to move this one to this side, and then it changes the operator changes. So when the operator changes, I'm going to rewrite this saying -9. So if I need to take away the 9, I will take away the 10 and I will plus the 1. So here in this scenario, let me do 17. So if I do 17, I want to take away the 9. So my question is 17 minus 9. 17 minus 9. 17 minus 9. Can I take away the 9? No, I cannot take away the 9. So what do? I have to go to the 10, and I have to do is borrow, right? One of the math terminologies is borrow. I'm going to borrow the 10 and I'm going to add the 1, and it gives me 8. So it and that's the reason why you have the plus and then you'll have the minus. You learn how to do the plus because it's just easier. And then after you that gets solidified, you do the minus. So in this scenario, when we do the -4, we do -4 minus 1 equals -5. Now, when we want to isolate this variable, we move this 1 over. So when we move the 1 over, we do -4. If we're looking for minus how to take away the 4, we need to minus the 5 plus the 1. So the scenario in this one would be if I had 7 and I want to take away 4. Let me show that. If I have 7 and I want to take away 4, 7 minus 4. So this is the 4 and this 4. Now we're substituting this formula. That's an algebra. That's the beginning of algebra. So in beginning of algebra, we do substitution. In abacus, we introduce the concept of substitution. So what we're going to do is we're going to minus the 5 and take away and add the 1. So again, I'm going to use two hands to show to make it enhanced. I'm going to take away the 5 and I'm going to add the 1 like this. Notice there's that same pattern. We added the 4 and now we take away the 4. Same, but it's just the opposite. Again, when you do it, it's together at the same time. The finger and the thumb. It's minus the 4 and then plus the 4. Anybody have any questions? Plus the 4 and minus the 4. So yes. And I have 6 minutes. Let me know if you have any more questions. Let me know if you have any more questions. But yeah, I continue to talk about like this. I mean, we talk about it because we're adults and and I'm trying to explain why we're doing it, but for the kids, they just know it and they'll start seeing it. Like it becomes really natural for them to see like why they do it. There's not too many kids that at their age, like from 3 to 9, they don't really ask why. But when I teach and I teach adults, I like to know why. So I like to show why. And it's all about the number patterns and it's about understanding, the process of doing things. Because when adults, we learned in a one way, and how does it fit into what we're trying to teach the kids with the abacus? And that was the reason why I did it. This is the reason why I have open office hours and in all things abacus, because there's a lot of activities that happen in abacus that we don't talk about it in the abacus world, and nobody else understands it, right? So again, we talk about substitution that happens in abacus. We isolate the variable. This substitution happens in algebra. Isolating the variable happens in algebra. Two-step equation happens in algebra. There's a lot of similarities to everything. So if you notice, it's different when we're adding and subtracting in regular school. I notice that we worry about the result, but we don't talk about the process. In algebra, it's different. The perspective is different. They talk about the process and they don't worry about the result. They try to figure out how do you manipulate certain things. So as we go through understanding this as adults, this is how we're doing the process. But as kids go through it, they're just going to start knowing and understanding it. So then we talk about place values. So in the abacus, we show how easy it is, how it translates what the place value is. And then we have the decimals. The decimals is anything after this ones. So we have our decimals, which is between this column and this column, just as how we write it. So when we write it, right, we have $3.25. So if I have $3, notice This dot, this decimal does not happen in a place value. It's actually in between the place value. So then I have 25. So that's what this decimal is. That's what the decimal is. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to process everything. So then again, now in school, we're teaching children what the 5 frame is and what the 10 frame is. That's great. In abacus, we take it one step further. And if you look at all the other abacus in the world, like all the videos that's out there, there's not a connection between what we're talking about in school and how it relates to abacus. But the interesting thing is we actually do distributive property. What does that mean? When we do adding, when we do multiplication, we do distributive property. The reason why is because we don't memorize anything above 9. We need to know our multiplication fact. So we knew everything we need to do. Everything is all up to 9. 9 times 9 is as far as it goes. We don't need to know 9 times 12 because it's redundant. How is that redundant? Well, let me give you a little let me break it down. I only have 3 minutes left, and I want to respect your time because I allotted this for be 1 hour. So again, so here we're doing multiplication. This is where the children still need to know their math fact, right? They still need to know their multiplication math fact. To do this on the abacus, what the first thing we need to do is we need to understand is where are we going to put our answer. So in school, they do it this way, right? Well, actually, they memorize it, but in this example, they do it this way. So the first thing they do is they take the ones and they times it, and then they take the tens and they and they times it. In abacus, what we're going to do is we're going to find where we're going to start at. So to do that, we talk about the digits 1, 2, 3. When we add the digits together, that's where I know where my place value is. So my place value will be 3. 1, right? Ones, tens, hundreds. So my place value will be at the hundreds. So at the hundreds, I know that's where I'm going to put my answer. The first one we do is we do this. This is like part of the distributive property where we start to distribute the 9 to the 1. So now the question is 9 times 1 is equal to 9. So notice there's a 9, but 9 is a single digit. If I made this 9 to a double digit, there's a leading 0. So I know I'm going to be 0 and then 9. So I'm going to add the 9 here. Okay? Now, I'm still here at this column. The next one we're going to do is 9 times 2. 9 times 2 is 18. Okay, so I'm going to add the 1 and the 8. I'm going to add 1, I'm going to add 8. Okay, notice right here, I'm going to add the 1. Yes, the 1 is really a 10. So when we break it down, 1, if I want to add the 1, we need to plus the 10 minus the 9. See how it stacks everything? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 10 and then take away the 9 and then add the 8. And that's what it is. So my answer is 108. Answer is 108. So that's how we do multiplication. And we bring in the information that we know from from adding and subtracting. That's why you want to take it a little bit slow to make sure that they understand the fundamental. That's why you want them to understand the ingredients of adding and subtracting, like baking a cake. And that was my scenario. Knowing the +5 and the -5 is like understanding that you need milk and eggs to make a souffle or to make cake or to make cupcakes or cookies or whatever, you need all of these ingredients. And so when you start off understanding the formulas, when you start understanding the formulas, like this would be eggs, and then this would be milk, and then this would be, I don't know, flour. So when you understand it, then it will be easy to start doing the higher math, the more complex math. But again, it goes into other steps. But we start building those steps and we start manipulating it. I hope that makes sense. Oh, it's already 10:01. Alyssa, did you have any more questions that before I sign off? And if not, I mean, I can always answer them next week because I'll be on again next week. Do you have any other questions before I sign off? I do want to make sure that I keep this at 1 hour. Okay, great. Okay, great. Again, thank you again for joining, and I do hope that it's helpful. So yeah, I mean, we can continue on further. Okay, thank you again. I appreciate you so much for oh yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for all your help and thank you for I'm so happy that you're still learning. Yeah, it's great. If you can learn it with your son, it's fantastic because it's mind-blowing how easy abacus makes it. Like it's so crazy. Okay. Again, I'm going to sign off. Thank you again for joining and I will be here next week, same time, same place. And I'll see you next week. Bye.